Hello and welcome. You're watching World Report on NewsX World. I'm Kriti Mehta. Let's start with a check of the top headlines. Kremlin firmly rejects U.S. claims, with spokesman Dmitry Peskov stating that neither Russia nor China has carried out any secret nuclear tests. Peskov added that Beijing has categorically denied the accusations, insisting both nations remain committed to their obligations under international treaties. Millions of files related to late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein suggest the existence of a global criminal enterprise that carried out acts meeting the legal threshold of crimes against humanity, according to a panel of independent experts appointed by the UN Human Rights Council. India and France issued a major joint statement strengthening strategic ties in defense, critical minerals, advanced technology and climate action following high-level talks between Prime Minister Modi and President Macron. Google CEO Sundar Pichai, speaking at the ongoing AI summit, describes the current era as a golden age of innovation. He stressed the need for international cooperation and unified regulations to tackle challenges like deepfakes, accuracy issues and ethical misuse while bridging digital divides. Turkey is deepening defense pact talks with nuclear-armed Pakistan, sparked serious concerns in Israel over potential proliferation risks and a new Sunni nuclear axis in the region that risk altering Middle East deterrence and heightened tensions with Israel. US and Iranian negotiators report good progress in Geneva on guiding principles for a nuclear deal, even as Iran conducted Strait of Hormuz drills and the US maintained military pressure in the Gulf. Armed group Hezbollah rejected the Lebanese government's decision to grant the army at least 4 months to advance the second phase of a nationwide disarmament plan, saying it would not accept what it sees as a move serving Israel. The Vatican will not participate in U.S. President Donald Trump's Board of Peace initiative. Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Vatican's top diplomatic official, said, while adding that efforts to handle crisis situations should be managed by the United Nations. Pope Leo I, U.S. Pope and a critic of some of Trump's policies, was invited to join the board in January. And viewers, now on to news from Denmark. King Frederik has arrived in Nuuk in Greenland, marking his third visit to the Arctic island since becoming the monarch. The trip highlights unity with the Danish territory amid US President Donald Trump's push to acquire Greenland. The visit also follows recent diplomatic talks between Greenland, Denmark and the US aimed at resolving the crisis after months of tension within NATO over Trump's comments. The king was greeted by Greenlandic leaders on the tarmac and is reported to visit the headquarters of Denmark's Joint Arctic Command also, and the island's largest company, Royal Greenland. On Friday, the king is expected to visit the Arctic Basic Training Program in Kangerlussuaq. Greenland has been part of the Kingdom of Denmark since 1953, when it was fully incorporated and ceased to be a colony. It received home rule in 1979 and expanded autonomy under the 2009 Self-Government Act. Denmark still controls foreign affairs and defense matters of Greenland, while King Frederik serves as the head of state without formal political powers. Mark Sutherland, geopolitical commentator from London, joins me in this discussion. Mark, thanks very much for joining me. It's good to see you.
And you, Kriti, thank you.
What impact do you think is the visit of the king really going to have?
Well, it's his third visit since becoming king. If we go through history, we all know, as I've commented on here, that President Trump has been rattling the diplomatic cages in the only way that he does, in his irascible style to some. The rest of us find it rather amusing and enlightening because he then gets people to think. The bottom line is this. This is, you know, as you've just read, there is a long history of Danish history in regard to its links with Greenland, and it's a fascinating history to read. There's a wonderful article by Mikael Olesen who talks about this, where it goes back to the 10th century and Eric the Red, etc. The Americans have been deeply concerned. You've just read this out about the what's happened. Deeply concerned in regard to bases there, in regard to China and Russia and what's going on, and to America, their number one threat is China. America is looking to the north and is also looking on its southern border. You've also just read out about the autonomy that Greenland has got, and then in 2009 the passing within the Danish Parliament, which is the road to then independence. But a lot of Greenlanders don't want that because they are very happy with the amount of money that the Danish government gives them, and also they then have use of the Danish health system, etc. So there's lots of things that they are then weighing up in the vast landmass that is there, that is part of it. So it's about having those conversations, strengthening that. Diplomats have been having conversations with American diplomats behind the scenes, and also, as you know, that within countries that then have kings and queens, they are all part of the soft power and the soft diplomatic games that go on. There is a lot to measure up. There's a lot to weigh up, but the Americans are looking and turning around and saying, we want to be able to have a base here, and we are looking at our own security. Hence the diplomatic rattling of cages that have gone on by President Trump. Pretty.
Yeah, but would you not say, Mark, that Trump should now be satisfied with the increased NATO deployment, because that was his rhetoric. Remember, he was saying that he wants to take over Greenland only so that Russia and China can't take over. But now, with sufficient deployment of troops from the Europe to Greenland, shouldn't Trump's so-called concern be resolved?
Well, we then have to look at the amount of troops that went there. When we remember a few weeks ago, there are troops landing, and then within minutes they're getting back on a plane or disappearing, or maybe that's just humour. But the issue, you're right, as in the number one ethos is this about the Trump administration is, and this happened in the first administration as well, which they just feel that the Europeans have not been paying their way in regard to NATO, just an example, and they then have turned around and said, you have got to then start spending more in regard to your GDP, in regard to military and defence of your country and the defence of Europe. And they went on about that in the first administration, and that is what all of this about. Now, again, lots of interesting history we don't have time to go through in regard to the Marshall Plan, the rebuilding of Europe after the Second World War, and also then the real expansion then of American influence around the world. So behind the closed doors, maybe they will be quietly satisfied that NATO, etc., the European countries, the EU, will then take certain things seriously. But America is looking at how to protect itself and its interests. Hence why President Trump, at times rolling into the shop like a bull in a china shop, has then got what he wants, e.g. a discussion, people stepping up, people taking his concerns seriously, and that was underlined by Rubio, by his speech at the Munich conference, which is about turning round and being in alignment. America and the European Union, are we on the same page? If we are, then we need to work together. And Rubio was then pushing that forward as well. Kriti.
Right. Thanks very much for joining us then, Mark, in this discussion. And now moving on, viewers, Ukraine's sports minister Matvey Bidny announced today that Ukrainian officials will boycott the upcoming Milano Cortina Paralympics over the participation of Russian and Belarusian athletes who have been cleared to compete under their national flags. While Ukrainian athletes will still participate in the March 6 to 15 games, no officials will attend the ceremony or any other events. This decision follows the International Paralympic Committee's move to allow 10 athletes from Russia and Belarus to compete, marking the return of Russian athletes to the Paralympics after their suspension since 2014 due to doping scandals and the ongoing war in Ukraine. Bidny condemned the decision, calling it a form of support for Russia's propaganda. The IPC has not commented further on the boycott, but tension remains high as Russia's participation in international sports increases ahead of the 2028 Olympics. And we now move on to some tragic news coming in from Africa. A gas explosion at a mining site in Plateau State of central Nigeria has claimed the lives of 38 lead miners. Local sources confirmed the fatalities, with another 27 individuals hospitalized following the blast. Aliyu Adamu Idris, the acting traditional ruler of Bashar district, confirmed the death toll and the ongoing treatment of the injured. The explosion has raised concerns about safety standards at mining sites in the region. And we now move on, viewers. During the ongoing Mumbai Climate Week 2026, former US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has stressed India's role as a leader in the global south in the fight against climate change. She has talked about the need to shift resources and focus to regions that have been most impacted, while also urging partnerships between governments, philanthropies, and civil society to create scalable solutions. Moreover, Clinton has pointed out that climate change is not just an energy issue, but also a health issue that affects air quality, pollution, and the well-being of children and communities. Clinton has noted that women in India are particularly affected by extreme heat, working in challenging conditions. Moreover, Clinton has highlighted initiatives like the Clinton Global Initiatives Insurance Program for Women, which now has 500,000 policyholders as a model for the rest of the global south. Let's listen in to her comments first.
I cannot wait for the political change that I know will come to the United States, because that's a few years off. We have to build the models here. We have to do the innovation here. This insurance product that I mentioned to you, 500,000 policyholders now, women who've never had insurance for anything. So this is not only a good thing to do, it is smart. It is a new market. We have to be creative about how we bring the public and private and philanthropic sectors together. So I could not be more enthusiastic, I think you could tell, about being here with all of you and representing the Clinton Global Initiative, because we look for partners who want to do hard things and make a difference, and then when we see results, let's scale them. So you bringing everyone together for this first inaugural climate session here in Mumbai is, I am confident, the beginning of the change that needs to happen.
Thank you for saying that.
And joining me now for this discussion is Raymond Vickery, International Affairs expert and former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce. Joins us from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us in this discussion. Well, it's very welcome, the initiative that Hillary Clinton is talking about. It's for the global south, but when is the West going to be taking the responsibility for climate change?
Well, thanks very much for having me. You're exactly right. The West has to step up along with the global South. This is not a problem which affects only a certain area. It's worldwide and it's existential. it's important to almost any issue you talk about, not only in terms of air pollution, in terms of the forest fires and the floods which rage, but it has to do with immigration, as people can't make a living because of climate change in southern areas, and they move up to try to find a livelihood. So it's important across the board. And it is not the case that the absence of leadership from the United States should stop this approach, which is unified in scope. And I think former Secretary Hillary Clinton has rightly pointed out that the President Trump approach, saying that climate change is a hoax and disregarded, is not the final say in the United States, but we can't afford to waste time waiting on the U.S. To do what it should do, or even Western areas. India has a great stake, and it is extremely encouraging to see Mumbai Climate Week with the support of so many governmental and private sector entities taking a leading role to try to make up for the vacuum in leadership which has been created by the Trump administration.
Right, Mr. Vikri, thanks very much. But stay on as I seek your comments going forward. Viewers, now at a ministerial meeting in Paris, U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright urged the International Energy Agency to shift its focus from climate change to energy security. He called on the IEA to abandon its climate initiatives, which he described as political, and emphasized the urgent need for the agency to prioritize energy security instead. Wright also warned that the United States could pull out of the IEA unless significant reforms are made. Founded in 1974 in response to the oil crisis and to address supply disruptions, the IEA has been facing increasing pressure from the US to reassess its climate-related priorities. Meanwhile, environmental groups continue to advocate for climate action, highlighting the tension between energy security and climate concerns. However, with the current global energy crisis, the US insists that energy security should take precedence. Furthermore, the IEA's ability to maintain its broad focus will likely be tested in the coming months as the debate unfolds. Request Mr. Vikri to join us back in this discussion here. Mr. Vikri, I would say, in my opinion, it's a very disturbing statement that's coming in from U.S. Energy Secretary, but one that's also not surprising given the president that he's working for.
Well, you're absolutely correct. It's not surprising at all because President Trump has declared the whole climate change issue to be a hoax. It's not a hoax. It's a reality. It's one that people can see in their everyday lives, whether it be floods, whether it be heat waves, whether it be forest fires. All of these things are evidence that it is not a hoax. And for the Energy Secretary to say that there is a choice between either energy security or climate change focus is absolutely wrong. It's a false dichotomy. These two things go together. Energy security, of course, is not limited just to attack on climate change, but does include oil, gas, and fossil fuels. But it is outrageous to say that one is opposed to the other, that climate change is political, whereas oil and gas and fossil fuels is reality. So this approach is leading the world down the wrong path, and thank goodness for India and others who are willing to step up and try to fill this vacuum in leadership and not succumb to the blandishments of a Trump administration, which is really absolutely controlled on climate change by internal factors in the U.S. in terms of oil and gas industry, as well as coal and fossil fuels. It's not that those industries aren't important. It's not that they shouldn't be looked at for energy security. But to say that we can completely disregard climate change makes us less secure in regard to energy and makes it more likely that we're going to continue to have the degradation in our environment that we are experiencing from climate change.
Mr. Vikri, is there anything that you think can be done to correct Trump's and his team's myopic vision as far as climate and the future is concerned?
Yes, there are things within our system. You know, we've survived for 250 years as a democracy and have faced existential challenges in the past. We do have institutions, first of all, in regard to the courts, and there's a significant amount of litigation going on. Second, we have midterm elections coming up. And climate change and the environment will be one of the issues in that. And beyond that, it's up to other great democracies like India and Western Europe and Japan, who see the reality of climate change, to apply pressure and not succumb to such instances as what the American Secretary of Energy is saying in regard to further destruction of international institutions which take the broader and appropriate approach to climate change and energy security.
Right, Mr. Vikri, thanks very much for your comments. I are requested to stay on once again as we move ahead. Now, viewers, Thailand's foreign minister has announced today that Thailand hopes to reconnect Myanmar with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or the ASEAN, nearly 5 years after the country's 2021 military coup. Following talks with Myanmar's Foreign Minister, Than Suu Sihask emphasized the importance of Myanmar adhering to ASEAN Stability Plan. He urged Myanmar to engage in dialogue, reduce violence and protect civilians. Myanmar's recent elections, the first since the coup, have been heavily criticized by the UN and rights groups, with the military-backed party declared the winner in certain regions. Since the coup, ASEAN has excluded Myanmar's junta leaders from major summits as the nation grapples with civil war and repression. Thailand, sharing a 2,400-kilometer border with Myanmar, has significant stakes in the region's stability. Let's listen into that.
We discuss the domestic situation in Myanmar after the election. And the foreign minister told me that they hope to be able to set up the new government before the traditional New Year's on track. And he also reassured me that the new government will continue to, the priority would be stability of the country.
Request Mr. Vikri to join us back in the discussion. Mr. Vikri, would you say Myanmar is ready really to be a part of ASEAN?
Well, thanks for allowing me to comment on this. You know, in order to wage peace like you wage war, you've got to have strategy, you've got to have partners, and most of all, you have to have principles upon which to act. What Thailand is doing is really a reflection of the jettisoning of democratic principles in that country as reflected in the recent elections. Unfortunately, this move away from democracy and human rights as bedrocks for international relations, in addition to the interest of both economic and security, is a trend which is going on worldwide, in part led by the United States of America Trump administration. And so this is not a welcome development, because what it does is give encouragement to anti-democratic authoritarian forces, not only within Myanmar, but really throughout ASEAN, and is a part of what is the trend which is happening throughout the world. So it's up to great democracies like India, like in Western Europe, Japan, Australia, to step forward and reiterate that the principles of democracy, human rights, rule of law are not just domestic matters, but are fundamental to building peace and prosperity throughout the world. So what Thailand is doing here reflects its own internal politics, as well as its border problem with Myanmar, but is not a way forward to build a lasting peace and prosperity either in Southeast Asia or throughout the world.
Right, absolutely. Mr. Vikri, thanks very much for your comment here and for joining us. Viewers, let's now turn our focus to the AI summit taking place in New Delhi. Our correspondent Thomas Portes, who is covering the AI Impact Summit at Bharat Mandapam, has spoken to Mr. Kunal Sood, the founder of Audacity AI and founder of X Fellows and X Impact Group. Let's get across.
Hello and welcome. You're joining us once again from the India AI Impact Summit here in New Delhi at the Bharat Mandapam, and we're joined by Kunal Sood. He is the founder of Audacity AI. He's made the trip here from New York to come to this very special event in the Indian capital. Kunal, what more can you tell us about the event? Have you enjoyed it as the third day wraps up? What have you thought?
I think this is a very, audacious attempt at all inclusion in India, which is necessary. If you look around, you see people from all walks of life in India and around the world too. So I think I commend Prime Minister Modi ji around his vision for an audacious future for India in the age of AI. I would love to see more of a sangha, like a satsang, which is more AI experts as well. That's the only thing I want to see here is like, where are the AI experts? Because it's like I come into the sea and it's an unbelievable inclusion, but then where do I go to learn about AI in India? And some of the expo halls have been really fascinating to me, how they've been laid out, especially the one with all of the military capability of India. And that's really been something that's inspired me. Because really when you look at AI, it starts with the military, right? A strategy in aviation or missiles, and then you see it in action, and I was very inspired by that.
And of course, it's referred to many other topics. You've got the likes of agriculture, the likes of health have been discussed. I mean, we're at the start of a revolution. People are liking to the internet. Some people are also explaining that it could be even bigger than that. The different areas that have been referred to, your health, your agriculture. What more can you tell us about how that can benefit the mass? We're living in a country of over 1.4 billion.
Yeah.
How is that going to come into practice in a country like India, if it is?
I definitely feel AI has the capability, because if you look at AI, it's like the holy trinity of fire, electricity, and water. Right? So if you harness it, of course, you can be burned by fire, you can be drowned by water, and electricity can, of course, electrocute you. And now AI is seeming like the trifecta of the three. So for me, I see it as an extraordinary opportunity for India to harness that trinity, almost like Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, right? And if you look at that, our culture has extraordinary ancient philosophy and tradition. And for me, personally speaking, I'd love to see us live out the four virtues of Seva, Sangha, Sadhana, and Swadharma, which is service, community, sadhana is personal development, and finally your massive transformative purpose or your calling. And if we really go in that direction, I think it will benefit a lot of India. Meaning if we create something that's meant for India and built by India, so it's like for us and by us. And that's going to be the challenge, right? How do you democratize the idea of artificial intelligence so it doesn't sit amongst the elite, right? It doesn't just belong to the biggest companies in the world, but rather it's democratized to the poor man in the slums of Mumbai who can actually pick up a phone and start making a living versus having to eke out his daily wage to just get by. That I feel is going to be the greatest gift Modi ji, as well as the AI Impact Summit can actually do for India. It's to really penetrate the bottom billion, that exist around the world, not just India. But that's going to be really something that we see as a gift of AI. If we can harness that utopian future, we'll go through a little bit of dystopia, but I have a feeling that ultimately we'll come out the other side having democratized this technology as something that helps humanity flourish.
Indeed, and of course, I mean, this event is full of bright colours and positivity and smiles, but there is those concerns going forward. Yes. The obvious ones, personal security, the use of the defence, as you'd said. Things could go wrong. Do you think that is correctly being addressed here?
I feel like India is doing a major part of its role to try and address it. I don't know if any country, including the United States or China, have an answer to that. Because you see, when you think about AI, it's a black box. Even the experts don't know. They're like, Pandora's out of the box. So they don't even know what's going to happen. They don't even think losing your job is the worst thing that's going to happen with AI. They're worried about what they've unleashed. Because ultimately, it's human intelligence in the form of Superman. Right? Meaning you've literally you have super intelligence on steroids. And you don't know how to control that in society. So I feel like what's going to happen short term is we're going to have to look at the players that understand how to control AI. It's not AI itself that's going to be the danger. It's going to be the controllers of AI, the ones who actually control the force of AI. And the second thing that's going to happen is you're going to see AI actually shift into superintelligence, right, which we call AGI, superintelligence. Yes. That's the point at which I think leadership is going to matter the most. So I believe here and now we don't have a technology or a resource problem. We have a massive leadership crisis. And we have to address that at the beginning so that these things don't go out of hand. I'm all about a strong military. Because if we are going to fight an alien intelligence, that if it's on this planet or off, we will have to have some form of military. The thing that you're talking about is more important, which is we control what AI can take away from us, which is our sovereignty.
Yeah. And you speak of that leadership and that leadership making the right decisions. We're leading up to the pinnacle of the summit, the last 2 days in which world leaders are set to come and address the crowd and hopefully sign some official agreements. Over 100 countries are present here, delegations are. So what would you hope for? Do you think it's going to happen to conclude it?
So I'm very hopeful. Not only because Prime Minister Modi's vision is actually being signed by 100 different countries, but because India is a very disciplined nature country which really prides themselves on building and educating. And so AI is all about intelligence. And I feel like that's the one strength India has at its core. We're very intelligent by nature and also by discipline. Even if you're not intelligent, your parents will make sure that you're intelligent. So that's my hope for India, that we harness our intelligence to go from artificial to audacious intelligence to natural intelligence, right? So we unlock those realms of intelligence that haven't been unlocked. So that's one thing I'm very excited about for India. Now, the pact that's being signed by 100 countries, it sounds a lot like the United Nations. It's going to take a conceited effort of going beyond your signing that document to making it executable in a way that Steve Jobs said it best. An idea is an infectious disease that doesn't help anyone. It's that execution, it's that flawless, audacious, fearless execution that matters the most. And by the time you conceive of an idea to the point that it's executed, you've iterated at least 10,000 times, just like mastery, 10,000 hours. So I think that's what India has, that grit, that ability to actually execute and have the discipline and the foresight as well as the wherewithal to do it, to get it done. And that's what I'm excited about with the Indian populace. Like the population of India, the minds of India And, we want to build AI for the world, not just for us. Democratize it for everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's a great pleasure to talk to you here on NewsX World. Pleasure. Thank you so much.
And viewers, with that, we wrap up this edition of the World Report. Stay tuned to NewsX World.